You looked at something today that contradicted the assumption. The bank account, the relationship, the body, the circumstances, something in the visible world presented itself as evidence that what you have been holding in consciousness has not produced any effect, that the law is not working, that the practice is failing, that the gap between the inner state and the outer reality is as wide as it has ever been. And you drew a conclusion from it. I want to correct that conclusion tonight, not gently, precisely, because the verdict you reached is not only wrong, it is the opposite of what the evidence actually means. What the outer world is showing you is the past. What it cannot show you is what is already on its way. And as long as you continue drawing the wrong reading from it, you will be using the visible record's report on the past to make decisions about the future, which is exactly like reading tomorrow's weather by looking at yesterday's clouds. The clouds you are looking at are not today's. They have nothing to do with the sky you are currently creating. Here is what outward appearances actually are. Not a mirror of your current consciousness, not a live report on what you are currently holding. A crystallization, a solidified, made visible record of the inner state you occupied in the past. Not yesterday, not last week, in many cases, months or years ago. The world you are observing right now is the physical expression of a consciousness that has already moved on from where it was when that world was being formed. The outer world is always behind. It cannot be otherwise. Consciousness precedes its physical expression the way a decision precedes its consequence. You cannot see the consequence before the decision has had time to produce it. And here is what that means for every verdict you have been reaching from what appears. A farmer plants in spring. He does not stand in his field in summer looking at bare earth and decide that planting does not work. He knows the timeline. He knows that what is visible in summer is the result of what was planted in spring, and what will be visible in autumn is the result of what he is planting now. The bare earth in summer is not evidence of a failed planting. It is evidence of a planting that has not yet reached the surface. You are standing in your field in summer, looking at bare earth, and concluding that planting does not work. What is visible, showing you the opposite of your desire, is not evidence that what you have been holding is failing. It is evidence that the old inner state was successful. The world you are looking at was built by a consciousness you have already changed. You are seeing the harvest of last season's seed and drawing judgments about this season's crop from it. I know the question that raises. If the old state produced this world, how do you know the new assumption has genuinely been planted? How do you know you actually changed? Here is how. Not by what appears, by what the inner conversation has become. The unguarded voice, the automatic murmur that runs beneath the day, if that voice has shifted from the language of wanting to the language of having, the planting is real, the harvest is forming. What you are seeing right now is what was in the ground before you changed. These are not the same thing, and confusing them is what has been costing you. Now, here is what most people miss entirely at this point, and if you do not understand the distinction I am about to draw, everything I have just described may actually make your practice harder rather than easier, because the most common misreading of this teaching produces a specific error that compounds over time. Most people, when they hear that the outer world is showing them the past, do one of two things. They either dismiss what appears entirely, which creates a different problem, or they use the timeline teaching as a reason to stop paying attention to reality altogether. Both of those responses are the wrong reading, and they produce the same result. A practice that feels like spiritual bypassing rather than genuine assumption. The distinction I am about to give you is the difference between those two responses and the correct one. Understanding that what is visible shows the past does not mean ignoring it. It does not mean pretending the bank account says something different. It does not mean denying what appears, or performing a positivity that the circumstances do not support. Neville was not teaching denial. He was teaching the correct interpretation of evidence. The report is real. The bank account says what it says. The gap is genuinely present. None of that is being disputed. What is being corrected is what you decide it means. The person who understands the timeline does not look at contradicting circumstances and conclude the assumption has failed. They look at the same evidence and think, this is last season's harvest. My current planting has not yet reached the surface. I know the objection underneath that. What about a year of unchanged circumstances? At what point does the timeline argument stop being valid? The question is not how long the interval is. The question is whether the planting has been continuous. A year of unchanged outward appearances alongside a year of continuous, genuine inner assumption is not a failure. It is a long interval. And long intervals happen when what is being planted is replacing an assumption that ran deep and long. The older the wrong inner state, the longer its harvest continues to appear, while the new one grows beneath it. This is not the law of failing. This is the law's precision, still delivering what was planted before, while simultaneously building what is being planted now. Every time you look at what appears and draw the wrong conclusion, you are planting a new seed of the wrong assumption. The wrong reading is not a neutral mistake. It is an active instruction. So, stop drawing verdicts about the future from evidence of the past. Not forever, for the duration of the interval. During that time, what is visible will continue to reflect what was true before. It has no choice. It can only show what was planted before this moment. It cannot show you what is currently growing. I know what the refusal feels like from the inside. It feels like dishonesty, like pretending the evidence doesn't mean what it seems to mean, like lying to yourself about what the bank account says. Refusing the conclusion is not dishonesty. Accepting the wrong conclusion is. The bank account is real. What it means about your future is not fixed, and treating it as though it is constitutes the actual distortion. The accurate reading is not the one that accepts its verdict. The accurate reading is, this is the past made visible. My future is being written by what I am currently holding in consciousness. I see this. I know what it is. It is the past made visible. It says nothing about what is on its way. That refusal, practiced quietly, without performance, without manufactured positivity, is the whole of what is required. Not belief that defies the evidence. Accurate reading of what the evidence actually means. The clouds you are looking at are yesterday's. The sky that matters is the one you are creating right now, in consciousness, with what you are currently holding. Stop reading the weather by looking at yesterday's clouds. Look up.